Our next guest is an Emmy Award-winning television writer who's written for shows like David Letterman, Newhart, and Sex and the City. She's been on talk radio, she's been a television correspondent, but more recently she's been a novelist and memoir writer with books like What the Dogs Have Taught Me, It's My Effing Birthday, and Nose Down, Eyes Up. Her most recent book is Cool, Calm, and Contentious. It's a book of essays with musings about her mother's particularly dark outlook on life, dog whisperers, and great tips on how to spot a narcissist with which she's apparently had a great deal of experience. Please welcome the hilarious Merrill Markoe to Livewire. Welcome to the show, Merrill.
Before you say another word, I just want to tell you how much I enjoyed that story about getting called a husky. I thought that was unbelievably well written.
Oh, thank you. Wow. That means I can't tell you what that means coming from you. Thank you. It's
a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's really wonderful to have you here. I wanted to start off a little bit with your history because I'm not sure that everybody knows where you started. And you've worked on some amazing television shows over the years. Early on, you worked on a revamp of Laugh-In. You helped start David Letterman with David Letterman, not necessarily the news.
No, I didn't actually start David Letterman. It was his show that I worked on. It was really...
You didn't actually give birth to David Letterman. Thank God. That would have been incredibly creepy. Incredibly creepy. But which one of those early television jobs, you were the head writer for David Letterman, really made you a writer?
Well, I would have to say that what really made me a writer was leaving television. I would say that really is, if you, in fact, you want to be a writer, television isn't really your place. Well, it's not really a writing medium. I mean, there are some well-written shows, but it's an extremely collaborative medium. I didn't really ever hear my own voice very clearly until I started writing print. That's really where, or doing stand-up is another way that you hear your own voice really clearly. But television, it's often me or someone at a table with 19 people. And everybody kind of throwing things in, and sometimes there are power struggles, and sometimes there are vendettas that people have against each other and reasons people don't want something in. And it's really possible in television to have your name on something and have nothing in it by you.
Right, because you were just in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you actually mentioned in Mike Sachs' book, Here's the Kicker, you talked about actually figuring out what your voice was after you left television. How did you find your voice?
People started hiring me, well, because the voice on the Letterman show, which had something to do with me, I focused it, and I contributed a lot to it, but that voice was so clear that people started offering me jobs writing my voice, and then that really was clarifying for me, because I could be very specific about what that meant. You can take your time, and you can go through a thesaurus, and you can dress it up, and, you've got that kind of deadline when you're working for television where, it's coming up and it's going to be on no matter what you do. So that kind of chaos creates a certain dynamic all its own. It's about crafting it as well as you can based on a really specific, really ever-ticking time bomb. Right. Sort of.
Yeah, well, and it doesn't get finished, it just goes on the air.
Yeah.
That kind of idea.
Yeah, and it's as good as you can make it. And then sometimes, one of the things we did on that old Letterman show that I thought was very smart and appropriate in that way was that we just built into the way we were writing them that, well, what do you want? There's no budget. So you can, you really can only make it just as good as you can make it. Which was part of the attitude of the show, and that was something that helped. And on the other hand, that's the kind of thing that really makes you crazy when you're writing a book is if you have all the time in the world. So if it doesn't come out very good, you can really just
blame yourself. Was it hard for you once you started writing books to not hear the laughs?
It gets very confusing. It's really, really confusing. It's very hard. I do a ton of rewriting, and it's very hard to know the difference between rewriting the right amount and just OCD. where
Right.
you're just rewriting and rewriting and rewriting and rewriting. You just don't know whether or not you're making it better or you've gone past the point of better. You're just repeating it in some other way. It's very
Right. Yeah, writers talk about lateral changes. I'm making a change, but it's not better, it's just different.
Yeah, well, there's only just so many changes you can make. I've found that. And sometimes I actually have one book that by the time I decided to just stop rewriting it, I had put it back to the first draft.
Wow.
Pretty much. I mean, there's just only so many ways you can say the thing.
Sure.
You're only one person.
Sure. Well, I wanted to talk about this book, of course, Cool, Calm, and Contentious. And your mother actually passed away 20 years ago, but she plays such a big role in this book. Why did you feel like you wanted to write about her now?
I had never written about her, and I felt kind of guilty about it. And then I realized I think the role of a writer is maybe to tell people what it was like on planet Earth for you and the particulars of your life. And so she had a huge effect on who I was. And also there was another reason. After she died, this is very weird, but I found a little stack of her diaries. And my mother was an extremely angry person. In fact, the way I usually describe her is the first time I showed her something that I'd written, her remark was, "I don't happen to care for it, but I pray I'm wrong." She just was not, she was this very negative, non-supportive person. And I was always wondering why she was angry, and I really couldn't put my finger on it because she wouldn't explain it. She wasn't an introspective kind of person. So, She just was a never-ending compendium of negative remarks. On my 30th birthday, she made a toast to me that was, "May half of all your dreams come true."
Did you ask her what she meant by that?
I did. I actually went, "Mom, isn't that sort of sad?" And she said, "No, it's a good percentage." So... And I didn't know, by the way, when she was saying these things to me that they were funny until I started doing stand-up and started saying them in front of people. They were just devastating.
Right.
So when she died, I saw these diaries and I thought, oh, well, this is going to be one of those really big, amazing moments for me. I'm going to go through those diaries. I'm going to read them and I'm going to find out what she felt about my dad, what she felt about me, what she was so angry about, And what I found instead were these incredibly negative, critical travel diaries where all the countries of the world were disappointing my mother. She called the French countryside singularly uninteresting. And she had, when she visited Dublin, she had a line that I liked that I forgot to put in the book, which was, "I was not crazy about Dublin. It did not enchant me." The world was just letting my mom down everywhere she went.
Yeah, if entire countries were letting her down, you had no chance.
That's what I came to realize is, here I am thinking that I'm going to please this woman. And she went to St. Mark's Square in Venice and she said, "In terrible taste." And I'm trying to please this woman my whole life. Of course, the other last thing was I found this thing... it was one of her college textbooks. It was called A Dickens Reader. And in the second chapter, I noticed she had written in margin of Oliver Twist, not one of his best works. I was not impressed. So, Dickens letting my mother down.
Right.
And I think she's going to like my work. What's wrong with me? It was
Probably
an eye-opener for me.
Well, yeah. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Livewire, and we're talking to Merrill Markoe about her book, Cool, Calm, and Contentious. In the book, you sort of state, I finally realized it. My mother was a narcissist.
Yeah, she was. I mean, it was because I went into therapy and there was a label for people with this personality. Narcissism is a whole syndrome, a whole slate of personality traits that can be best reduced to, I'm the piece of the world revolves around.
Wow, that's so accurate. Well, so you also make a point that really some of these narcissistic mothers or difficult mothers really sort of create comedians.
Yeah, that was what I realized is I have a lot of comedian friends and a lot of comedy writer friends, and because we always talked about our backgrounds and stuff, it occurred to me that the lion's share of people in comedy have the same mother. These women it's like being raised by a heckler, is basically what it is. They create just the right amount of emotional personality damage to give you the drive to want to get on stage and entertain drunks.
Well, well, do you feel like, I mean, you're a writer, you're a funny person. Do you feel like in some way that you owe that to her? I mean, are you grateful, or was it worth it?
I guess that would be what I'm grateful for. Yeah, I guess that would be it. Yeah, she taught me all about narcissism. I mean, I'm sorry that I could never get along with her in the entire time that she was my mother. That kind of made me sad at the time, but, I'm glad I at least learned something from it.
Do you feel like your sense of humor came as a way to deal with her away from her, or did you somehow use humor to actually diffuse situations with her? How do you feel like your
she
humor
didn't have a sense of humor. I felt like, to me, no, she wouldn't like if I joked. It would be like, ha, 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 is everything a joke with you? That would be the
response.
I go, well, yeah, as it turns out, yeah, it is. It's basically all a joke with me. And
right.
Humor, that's the thing I loved about humor, is that these kind of mothers put you in untenable situations where your only escape is to take all the pieces they've given you, which are manifestly unfunny, and then reconfigure them so that somehow in your world, by the time you recite them as an anecdote, they have a punchline.
Yeah.
Which is like a fantastic gift. It always reminded me of sort of, those old Bugs Bunny cartoons where he's being chased by somebody and then he paints a tunnel on the wall and then just runs into it. That's what it reminds me of.
So you used humor to paint your escape tunnel, essentially.
Yeah.
I actually read your sort of list of comedy pet peeves, and it was really long. Do you feel like you
asked me to write it, and I
yeah.
can. Yeah, that's the thing about writing versus writing for TV. You can you go, and I got another one.
Here's another thing that bothers me. Do you feel like you have a love-hate relationship with comedy?
No, I just love it. Good. But I love it so much that I got this from my mother. I'm incredibly critical of it. I'm listening for, no, they should have picked a different word.
Right. So do you feel like after writing this book that you look at your relationship with your mom a little differently now?
I think I see it very clearly. I'm sorry that it seems sort of sad that I never had the kind of mother-daughter relationship that I hear other people talking about. But then I didn't really have the kind of anything else I hear everybody talking about. I don't even know what planet everyone else is from. As far as I can tell, I live all on my own planet. So
right, with a lot of dogs.
With an awful lot of dogs who are also from another planet.
Exactly.
To me, they are just exchange students from Neptune. I like that I like looking at them and realizing they're sharing the furniture with me and they're sharing the room, but I have no idea what they think is going on. They have no idea what I do for a living. They've known me their whole lives.
Well, the book is cool, calm, and contentious. The writer is Merrill Markoe. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you.